sit. This is Rocky, and this is Rocky's roadmap to success. We just got done shooting the video above, which is the loose leash walking. Now, I'm gonna go over a couple tips, things like that I didn't go over in the video above. So when you're doing that, you wanna, again, only do this in a park. Don't try to do it until you've got at least 3 or 4 weeks in before you try to do it on a sidewalk. Now, week 1, we're gonna avoid triggers, and we're gonna walk at a park, and he gets a sniff, and you let him drive. As long as it's safe to go, he can go anywhere he wants, as long as he doesn't pull you on the leash. As soon as he pulls, do that circle and avoid that abrupt turn. Make sure you're taking about 10 steps for every circle. Sometimes you make a really big circle, a lot bigger than that. Sometimes it'll be a little bit smaller. Now, the first week, avoid all triggers, walk him away from them. Increasing the distance is the best thing you can do. So we're not offering any direction, and what I'd like to do, what we found, is that he doesn't like being apart from both guardians together. So I want the guardians to, guardian A has him on the leash, and guardian A is about 15, 20 paces ahead of us, and we're following them. Now, ideally, really, we don't want to even do that. We want to just kind of let him meander in the park wherever he wants so you guys can be together. But when you're doing the circle, it's hard because you can sometimes get tangled up. So if that becomes difficult, maybe do it one-on-one, or have one of you walk ahead of him and create kind of a target. Now, after we did it a couple times, he wasn't necessarily having to go towards that person once. So that might just be the warm-up. And then the first week, you just spend about an hour each practice session. He gets to go wherever he wants as long as it's safe to do so. We don't ever pull him away from sniffs. He gets to sniff as much as he wants. Week 2, we see triggers. We're going to kind of identify and walk a little bit closer towards him, but not so he reacts, but just a little bit closer towards him. And you maybe just maybe 1 or 2 circle, then let the thing go away or kind of move him away. So the second week, we're also kind of letting him go wherever he wants, but we're adding a little bit of direction. We're kind of trying to lead him this way or that way. The third week, we want to look for triggers, things that he responds to, and we want to practice circling towards them. Now, well, actually walking towards them, but you always circle away from things. Never circle towards something he's reactive to. Never pull him into the circle. Now, once you started the circle, you can pull him in the circle if you have to, but don't, after a while, you should notice by the second or third week, he's going to circles easier. Sometimes he'll offer a circle on his own. The third week, we're going to find a park that has a path, and we're going to try to walk along that path. So we're going to add a little direction, but if he wants to meander this way or that way, a little bit off the path is okay, but try to stay within maybe 8 or 10 feet off the path on either direction. If somebody comes by and it's a trigger, then we're going to walk away from the path and start circling and let that trigger pass us. Then we can follow it if we feel comfortable to do so. Now, eventually, as you're circling, the trigger is going to move out of your range pretty quickly, but it gives you opportunity to practice it a little bit. The fourth week, we want to be doing most of it on the path. And again, there's nothing ever wrong with the circle. But the first couple of weeks, we just want to let him go wherever he wants. The third week, we start adding direction. The fourth week, we're kind of leading him. Now, again, don't pull him on the leash and never pull directly back. Now, martingale collar, it's M-A-R-T-I-N-G-A-L-E collar. Get one on Amazon. The ones I like have 2, it's all cloth. Don't get the one with the chain, because I think it'll be related to the prong collar that he used to use. So it's got a loop here and a separate loop here. The leash is attached to this one. This one pulls, it clenches the collar. So the collar can be nice and loose, except for when he pulls on leash, that's when it tightens up. When there's tension on leash, when the leash relaxes, the tension relaxes, but there's no teeth that doesn't bite him. It's referred to as a no-slip collar. We want to make sure he doesn't slide out. Harnesses, sometimes dogs can figure out how to slide out of it. So that's kind of your method or your marching orders for that. And I want you to be doing this once a day for a month to take him for this long hour walk. And in the meantime, you're going to get him exercise by doing the doggy stairmaster, the set games, feeding him on a snuffle mat, a mega paw treat ball, fetch, I guess, isn't something he really gets into. But the walks, he'll be drained afterwards. He's using his nose. Remember, the nose is very stimulating and energy depleting. And then if you don't have time for an hour, it'd be better to do it for an hour. Try to make that your goal. But if some days you're really tight on time, you can maybe do the doggy stairmaster first, give him 10 minutes of rest, and then drive to the park. But again, try to find parks like that park that we talked about between 3rd and 4th the school uses after hours. I think would be a great place. It's pretty convenient for you guys. But look for other places you can do it as well. All right, so if you have questions on that stuff, let me know. The rest of this, I'm going to summarize what we went over in the video in the session. So the first thing we did was talk about exercise. He's a Pitbull, and he's in his prime. He's got some energy. So the doggy stairmaster, have one of you is at the bottom of the stairs, the other one's at the top. So the person at the top shows him they have a treat, and we have a retractable leash on a harness, and definitely not on that prong collar. Throw that sucker away. So throw the treat at the bottom of the stairs. He runs down the bottom of the stairs. When he licks it up, come up with a fun word that means go down the bottom of the stairs and pick it up. Like Jamaica or Mexico or Cabo or whatever you want to say. I was like warm weather climates when we're going down. And then show him I have another treat, he runs the top. And we have the retractable leash, so he is on a leash, so we have some control. But we have the person down the bottom of the stairs just to make sure that somebody doesn't come in with a dog at the wrong moment. You're in your complex, as you get practice, you'll notice whether or not people come and go. Eventually, you probably do it without somebody there, but we want to be safe, obviously. So remember, the treat goes in the mouth first, then he hears the command word, and a separate word that means to go down, a separate word that means to go up. First time do it with an empty stomach, and keep doing it until he said you're crazy. But make sure they're a high value train treat, something you know he really likes. And we want to figure out that maximum number, and we want to exercise him somewhere about 50 to 75% of that maximum number multiple times a day. So if he gets his toys, he's kind of throwing them in the air, he's running around, he's barking, he's animated, he's naughty, ask yourself how long since he's had sleep and exercise. If it's been longer than an hour for the exercise, take him to the stairs, do the doggy stairmaster. 5 minutes on the stairs is equivalent to like a 20, 30-minute walk, and you can do it multiple times a day very easily. And don't be afraid to use the exercise to set him up for success. If everybody here is coming home from work around 4:30, maybe do the doggy stairmaster at 4 p.m. Then we could have the door open or have him out here, and people are coming by and dogs are coming by, and he's not reacting because we took care of his extra energy. Remember also, we need to get him enough sleep. I don't think he's getting enough sleep, so the guardians really need to factor in getting him into the sequestered area we talked about. Now you might want to get like a 10, 15 pound dumbbell and get a bully stick, drill a hole through the back of it, end of it, and then zip tie it to the dumbbell. That way you can have him in there and he's interested in chewing on that and he's not pining to get away or to get out of the room. And again, exercising him sets him up for success for that. Let me see, what else can we do for exercise? We can also get him a doggy backpack. I wouldn't do that for this, for the loose leash walking, but having him carry water is a great way to burn more calories because he's carrying a load. Also scent games, hiding treats around. Just Google scent games. There's a lot of versions of it. Also, there are treat dispensing toys. There's Kongs you can fill with peanut butter. The Omega Paw treat ball that I showed you. They have other puzzles. You got to turn it one way and then some kibble falls out. So look for those. Stimulating the mind is also draining of energy, and it also is healthy. He seemed to relax a lot when we got that energy out of him on that walk through the circle method. And so if he's anxious or uptight, get him a little exercise. I think that'll make a big difference for him, finding the right amount of exercise. That's passive training. We're not quite to passive training yet, buddy. We're going to get there in a minute. Okay, so the other thing we talked about are rules. He doesn't really have any rules, and so he has like one kind of quasi-rule. And so for dogs that don't have rules, they see you as a peer, and if they see you as a peer, then you're an equal. Then listening to us is optional. Leaders in the dog world are the ones who enforce the rules. So some of the rules we suggest is not being on the furniture, and these rules, remember, should be in place for a minimum of 90 days or as long as the problem's still going on. So not being on the furniture, order those X mats. I promise you, just order them, it'll make it easier. That way he doesn't practice getting the furniture when you're in the bathroom or you're not paying attention. Also, other rules, he has to sit. So we're outside. If he wants to go inside, I'm going to tell him to sit one time. If he doesn't sit within 3 seconds, I'm going to sit back here. I'm going to wait for 1 minute, and then after, and if he protests, I just ignore him. Remember, good attention and bad attention is the same thing. So if you're correcting a dog that's barking, well, I wouldn't correct a dog that's barking at me for attention, because that's what it is looking for. But it's barking or doing something else that I don't like, and I let it go on, I'm saying that I'm cool with that. So I go to the door and say sit. If he doesn't sit within 3 seconds, I walk away and sit down for 2 minutes, then 1 minute, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 8 minutes, crash. So you're going to double the length of time. And as soon as you go to the door and say sit, and he sits, the door flies open and you let him through it. I would do it for this door, the door to your apartment, the elevator doors, the door to your gate, to get, every door that you go to. But start doing it here so you can sit if he doesn't do what you want. Other rules shouldn't be allowed, and also sit and look for other opportunities to sit before you put the leash on. Remember, if you have a treat, tell him to sit, attach the harness, and then give him the treat and say uniform or costume. Then attach the leash and attach another one, call it water skiing, or whatever the word is that means to attach the leash. We want to kind of create a command word for all these things. So other rules, not be allowed in the kitchen when you're preparing food, and not be allowed around the humans within 7 feet of the humans who are eating. You have to stop giving people food, or if you're going to give them people food, put it in the microwave, give it to them hours later. Don't take it from your plate and give it to him. That's just going to confuse him. Dogs know that they shouldn't be within 7 feet of anybody else, a high-value item. So the more that we do that, the more that he's going to feed him, the more he's going to break that rule, and it's something, it doesn't help him practice boundaries. The more he has to stay away from you while you're preparing food or cooking or whatever the case may be, the more he's practicing self-restraint and self-control. That will help with a lot of the problems that you have. We also talked about petting with a purpose and passive training. Petting with a purpose is if you want to pet him, or he's coming up and nudging you or pawing at you or barking or rubbing up against you, he's telling you pet me. Remember, leaders tell, followers ask. So if he tells you what to do and you do it, you're saying you're in charge of me. So instead, when he comes up and nudges you, give him a counter order. Tell him to sit. If he's already sitting here, tell him to sit here or tell him to lie down. Don't practice shake anymore. If he doesn't sit within that 3-second window, show him I have other things to do, and he missed out his opportunity to get that attention. Playing hard to get is a great motivator for dogs. Then he has to wait until he loses interest, then you can ask him to do it again. And then after a while, he'll recognize, I can't tell humans what to do anymore. I have to ask, and better than ask, I have to pay them for the privilege of their attention. He'll start sitting in front of you to prepay for that attention. When he does, make sure you do pet or reward him. Otherwise, he can go back to doing the other things. Let me see. After a while, like I said, he'll sit and prepay him for that. Or pet him and say the command word. Say just the command word, not good sit, just sit. Now, when he, after a while, or not after a while, but we're also going to use paycheck as a watchword. So if I'm petting him and he's standing and somebody comes in the room and says paycheck, I'm going to stop petting him even if I did it right. But tell him to sit. If he sits, I pet him under his chin. Remember, not on top of the head. Pet him under his chin, say sit, and I can tell the person, I asked him to sit. When you open the door, he stood up, and I continued petting him. But thanks, because I do forget to pet without a purpose. Just gives you another opportunity to practice. Remember, if you get in the habit of doing this every time you pet him, it's a micro training session that increases his respect for you as a leader. It boosts his confidence. It helps him practice basic obedience, and it makes your pets more valuable. It takes you about 2 months to get in a habit of it. If you do, for the rest of his life, every time you pet him, it becomes a powerful training exercise where you're wanting to be aware of the fact that you're doing it. We also talked about passive training. Passive training is waiting for the dog to organically offer you the behavior on its own and then rewarding him. So every time he comes to you, pet him and say come. Every time he sits, pet him and say sit. Every time he lays down, and so on. So after a while, he'll start offering you those particular behaviors because those are the behaviors that get your attention. Remember, good attention, bad attention, same thing. So I bark, I get corrected. Well, that's sweet for me. That's a reward. So now the only way I can get that attention is by sitting, coming, laying down, bringing him a toy, eating my food, pooping, whatever it is. The things that you want him to do. Remember, you're going to wait for him to do it and then say the word. So if I tell him to sit, and he knows how to sit, I would say sit. When he sits, I would give him the treat and say sit. Throughout the session, you guys were saying sit and then saying sit again before you gave him the treat. So you really want to put the treat in the mouth always first, then he hears the command word second. So, and just get in a habit of doing that for the rest of his life. For that hand motion, keep your hand with your fingertips curled like this, and the lower you go, the more it's for the dog, the higher it is, the less it's for the dog. Also, a closed hand's not for the dog. So you want to keep your hand open, pretty much flat, and as it goes down, I raise my fingertips to shield him from seeing whether I have a treat in my hand or not. Then I raise an arc over his head. When his butt hits the ground, I lower it, and I tickle him under his chin, and let him lick the treat off my hand if I have one, but he always gets the tickle. So that'll help motivate him to want to do that. Also, like I said, don't stop bathing him so often. I think that he's got some dormant, some dandruff and some itchy skin, and that might help with that. You might also look into putting some water in with his food. Sometimes getting him a little bit of extra water can help. And there's other remedies that you can look into. I try to stay away from drugs because there are some drugs that can help with some of those things, but sometimes there's side effects. So try just washing him less. I think that's going to really help. But also, just like us, if we don't drink enough, we can get dehydrated, and that can the nose gets brittle and stuff like that. So if you see that, then look at ways to get him a little bit more water. Make sure, go back to rules, make sure that whoever's feeding him eats something first. 5 bites of a chip or cracker is fine, then he gets permission to eat, and use that passive training. Every time he takes his first bite of food, say lasagna, meatball, pork chop, whatever the word is that means to eat. And that's passive training. So passive training, again, is just celebrating the things that he does. So that's a watchword I use. So if he walked up to me and I didn't see it, somebody says, celebrates me, I turn and start petting the dog. I don't ask, I just immediately pet the dog. Then I look at what the dog is doing, and I say the command word. So if he's standing, I'm assuming it's come. If he's laying down, it's probably crash. Or if he's laying on his side, it's flop. If he's laying on his back, it's pancake, if you want to use the terms that I use. Every time he sits, pretty obvious. I'll name all of his toys. Come on, Jolly Rancher for the red thing. All bones can be bones, but you have a green bone, maybe call that the goblin. Come up with different names for these things so that you're creating a richer vocabulary, making it easier for him to understand what you want. And it's better vocabulary in terms of having a good dialogue with him. So every time he drinks water, say agua or water or whatever, or Merlot, whatever your favorite cocktail is. We also talked about the escalating consequences of disagree. I'm not going to go over those here because that's one of those things that I want people to hire me so they make sure they use it in the right context. But practice that technique, like I said, to move them out of the kitchen or whatever the other things are. And again, really consider the furniture. I know it's hard. You can always go down to his level and cuddle with him, but because he did kind of grab somebody's shirt when they came and sat on the couch, I think that he thinks of himself as you three are all the same and everybody else is a second level. So if he comes in and sees guests are up here and he's always down here, that makes him kind of see the guests a little bit more authority figure. I'm trying to think what else. That's pretty much it. Remember, anything a dog is doing when you pet is what you're rewarding. So if you pet him when he's jumping up, you're going to reward him for jumping up. So when you come home and he's jumping up and spazzy, just cross your arms and hold still. Don't turn, wait, and as soon as he stops jumping and gets down, don't pet him for down. When he's just freeze and become boring, when he jumps down, tell him to sit or tell him to lie down. When he does that, then you pet him for that. Let me see. Remember, not saying no is the same thing as saying yes. So make sure you disagree with anything that he does that you don't like, unless what he's doing is trying to get an attention from you. So he's barking for attention, then I don't even hear it. Not going to exhale or any of those things. All right. Sit. Sit. You're such a handsome Pitbull. Well, come here. Let's get you up here. Normally I don't invite dogs, but this is a weird angle. Come here. Rocky. Come here. Come on, buddy. Come on. Come on. Come here. Come here. Well, I guess this is all the Rocky you're going to see. You're going to see him in the other video. Sit. Sit. But do it like that. Tell him what to do. If he does it in a 3-second window, pay him by petting him or give him the treat and say this command word a second time. Not good sit, not sit, just sit. Come up with a list of the official command words. Sit down. What is the word for sit? What is the word for lay down? What is the word for come? Some people say come, and other people say here. Some people say come here. Some people just say the dog's name. So we say vocabulary if somebody's using a different version of the word. And for all new command words, I'd like you to come up with fun names for them. If you come up with funny names and you're out in the street and you say, polka dot, and he like flops on his back, or weird things like that, that's going to make people around you chuckle. He's a pit bull and he's black, and people we have an issue in our country with black, racial and otherwise. Dogs that are black faced are adopted about 70% less than other dogs. So people have natural aversion to him. The more that he is a positive, happy, wiggly, jiggly dog, the more other people are going to feel relaxed around him. And then using those fun command words is a great way to do that. Now, last thing is dog warning signs. So I want you to get in the habit of studying him. Right now, he is pretty relaxed. His ears are, you want to see where his ears at. When he's relaxed, his ears are to the side. When he kind of gets nervous or anxious, his ears, I notice, are going back. Sometimes they'll go very far forward or very far back. Tail. This hanging down, this is neutral. If he's in a mellow mood or a balanced mood, it's going to be, if this is the spine, it's going to come straight off. Whoops, spider web. But it's going to be in the middle. If it's going up, that's more commanding, assertive. It doesn't mean it's aggressive, but I'm going to pay a little bit more attention because he's inching in that direction. Doesn't mean he's going to become aggressive. Just might have it pointing at something or be on alert. That's different than being aggressive. The tail wagging, look at how it's wagging, look at how he's carrying his head, look at where his ears are, look at his hackles are. Remember, dogs are normally wiggly and jiggly. So you see him wiggly and jiggly and suddenly he freezes, closes his mouth and stares at something. He's saying, I really don't like that thing. That's when you circle or call or get him away. The more that you get him away from you of those things, the better he's going to respond. Also, make sure I'm talking about doing the check-ins on the walk. Do it on every walk that you do, especially when you're circling, but also do it at home. He looks at you, reach over and pet him and say attention, if that's the word that you guys fall on. So now you're creating an association that looking at me is a rewardable thing. And eventually, if you say it enough, you say attention, he's going to look up at you. So if he's kind of hanging out, and he sees another dog cross the street, and he goes like, attention? So you're able to redirect his attention away from something before he reacts. Now, once he is reactive, the best thing to do is increase the distance. But the circling method, I think, is going to really be very beneficial for you. All this stuff is going to be beneficial. But watch this video again in about a month because there's going to be a whole lot of little pieces you're going to forget. After a while, you'll kind of have all the pieces, and now you're creating a healthy leader-follower dynamic where he's motivated to want to listen to you. He understands what you want from him. You've depleted his energy, and you've communicated to him that you can't pull a lunge on walks, but if you don't, I'll always hook you up and let you get to what you want as long as it's safe and appropriate to do so. All right, Rock. Come here, buddy. Well, this is my buddy Rocky, and this is Rocky's Roadmap to Success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.